Beloved, let us start with this truth. Abundance is your birthright. You are not here to struggle or to live in lack. You are here as God's chosen one, destined to walk in divine prosperity. The Bible holds the keys to wealth-building secrets, secrets lived and exemplified by the great stewards of God's blessings. Today, I want to remind you of this eternal wisdom and show you how you too can live in the overflow of God's abundant provision. Wealth is not an end in itself, but a tool to fulfill a higher purpose. In the Bible, wealth is often portrayed as a divine blessing, but with it comes responsibility. Understanding the purpose of wealth requires us to shift our focus from material accumulation to recognizing it as a means to glorify God and serve others. This perspective transforms wealth from being a source of pride or selfish ambition into a spiritual gift meant to impact lives positively. Take the example of Solomon, whose wealth remains unparalleled in biblical history. Solomon's wealth was not an accident or merely the result of his own wisdom. It was divinely bestowed. However, its purpose was clear. Solomon's riches were not for personal indulgence. His wealth was used to build the temple of the Lord, a place where people could come together in worship and connection to the divine. The temple became a physical manifestation of God's glory on earth, and it was Solomon's resources that made this vision a reality. Through his story, we see that wealth, when aligned with God's plan, becomes a conduit for spiritual growth and community upliftment. The Bible teaches us that wealth carries responsibility. In Luke 12:48, we are reminded, "To whom much is given, much will be required." This means that wealth should never be hoarded or used solely for personal comfort. Instead, it should be shared and multiplied in ways that benefit others and honor God. This idea is evident in the life of Abraham, who was blessed with great wealth and used it to bless others. His resources were not just for his own family. He extended generosity to those around him and left a legacy that impacted generations. Wealth also serves as a test of character. How we handle the resources entrusted to us reflects our values and priorities. The parable of the talents in Matthew 25 highlights this beautifully. In the story, a master gives 3 servants different amounts of money to steward in his absence. The first 2 servants invest and multiply what they were given, while the third buries his talent out of fear. When the master returns, he praises the first 2 servants for their faithfulness and rewards them with greater responsibility. The third servant, however, is chastised for his lack of initiative and poor stewardship. This parable teaches us that wealth is meant to be used wisely and proactively, not buried or squandered. Moreover, wealth provides opportunities to practice generosity. Generosity is one of the core purposes of financial blessings. Proverbs 11:25 states, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." When we use our wealth to uplift others, we participate in the divine cycle of giving and receiving. Generosity reflects God's nature, for He is the ultimate giver. By sharing our resources, we become vessels of His love and abundance. The act of giving does not deplete us. Instead, it opens the door for more blessings to flow into our lives. It is essential to recognize that wealth is not just financial, it also includes time, energy, skills, and influence. When we understand the broader definition of wealth, we realize that everyone has something to give. Even those who may not have material riches can contribute to God's purpose by sharing their talents, offering their time, or lending a helping hand. This perspective fosters gratitude and reminds us that abundance is not measured solely by the size of our bank accounts, but by the impact we create in the lives of others. Another critical aspect of understanding the purpose of wealth is aligning it with divine priorities. When we focus on accumulating wealth for selfish reasons such as status, power, or control, we distance ourselves from God's plan. Ecclesiastes 5:10 warns, "Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income." This verse reminds us that the pursuit of wealth for its own sake leads to emptiness and dissatisfaction. True fulfillment comes when we align our financial goals with God's vision for our lives. To align our wealth with divine purpose, we must first seek God's guidance. Prayer and reflection are vital in discerning how to use our resources in a way that honors Him. Ask yourself, how can my wealth serve God's kingdom? How can it benefit those in need? By inviting God into our financial decisions, we gain clarity and wisdom to make choices that align with His will. Ultimately, wealth is a tool for building God's kingdom on earth. It allows us to create opportunities, support ministries, uplift communities, and care for those who are less fortunate. It is not a source of identity or worth, nor is it a measure of our value in God's eyes. Instead, it is a resource entrusted to us for a season, and how we use it determines the legacy we leave behind. Understanding the purpose of wealth transforms our relationship with it. It shifts our mindset from scarcity to abundance, from selfishness to service, and from fear to faith. When we view wealth through this divine lens, it becomes more than just a means to an end. It becomes a sacred responsibility and a powerful tool to fulfill God's purpose in our lives. As we embrace this understanding, we position ourselves to experience the fullness of His blessings and become true stewards of His abundance. The pursuit of wealth is a common goal in life, but the Bible teaches us that the foundation of true abundance begins with wisdom. Wisdom is the key to understanding how to steward resources, make sound decisions, and create a lasting impact. Without wisdom, wealth can quickly be misused, wasted, or even become a burden. Proverbs 4:7 reminds us, "Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And in all your getting, get understanding." This verse emphasizes that wisdom must come before riches, because it is wisdom that provides the knowledge and discernment necessary to handle wealth in a way that aligns with God's plan. Solomon is one of the most well-known examples of someone who chose wisdom before riches. When God appeared to Solomon in a dream and asked him what he desired, Solomon did not request wealth, power, or long life. Instead, he asked for wisdom to lead God's people. This humble and selfless request pleased God, and as a result, God not only granted Solomon unparalleled wisdom, but also blessed him with immense wealth and honor. Solomon's story demonstrates that when we prioritize wisdom, blessings naturally follow. It also serves as a reminder that wealth without wisdom can lead to ruin. But wisdom always brings guidance, clarity, and prosperity. Wisdom is not merely about acquiring knowledge or intellect. It is the ability to apply knowledge with discernment and integrity. In the context of wealth, wisdom helps us understand the difference between wants and needs, between investments and indulgence, and between temporary gains and long-term impact. Wisdom provides a broader perspective, enabling us to see beyond immediate desires and focus on what truly matters. It guides us to make financial decisions that align with our values and purpose, ensuring that our wealth serves a higher purpose rather than becoming a source of greed or pride. The Bible is filled with wisdom about managing wealth. For instance, Proverbs 21:20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." This verse highlights the importance of planning and saving for the future. A wise person does not spend everything they have, but instead exercises discipline and foresight. Wisdom teaches us to live within our means, avoid unnecessary debt, and prepare for both opportunities and challenges. Without this foundation, even great wealth can disappear quickly, leaving us vulnerable and unprepared. Another aspect of seeking wisdom before riches is understanding the principle of stewardship. Everything we have ultimately belongs to God, and we are merely stewards of His resources. Wisdom helps us recognize that wealth is a tool to fulfill God's purpose rather than a source of personal gratification. It encourages us to ask questions such as, how can I use my resources to glorify God? When we view wealth through the lens of stewardship, we become more mindful of how we use it and more intentional about creating positive, lasting change. Seeking wisdom before riches also protects us from the pitfalls of greed and materialism. In 1 Timothy 6:10, Paul warns, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." This verse is often misunderstood. It does not condemn money itself, but rather the excessive desire for it. When we prioritize wealth over wisdom, we risk falling into traps such as dishonesty, corruption, or selfishness. Wisdom acts as a safeguard, reminding us that true fulfillment comes not from the accumulation of riches, but from living a life of purpose, integrity, and service. One of the practical ways to seek wisdom is through prayer and reflection. James 1:05 encourages us, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." By turning to God for guidance, we open ourselves to divine insights that go beyond human understanding. Wisdom also comes from studying God's Word, which is a treasure trove of principles and lessons about life, wealth, and relationships. Additionally, seeking counsel from wise mentors or advisors can provide valuable perspectives and help us avoid costly mistakes. Another benefit of prioritizing wisdom is that it leads to contentment. When we have wisdom, we understand that our worth is not defined by our possessions, but by our relationship with God and the impact we have on others. This realization frees us from the endless pursuit of material things and allows us to focus on what truly brings joy and fulfillment. Ultimately, seeking wisdom before riches aligns us with God's will and positions us to receive His blessings in the right way and at the right time. Wisdom ensures that we are prepared to handle wealth responsibly, use it for good, and avoid the traps that often accompany financial success. It also helps us cultivate a heart of generosity, enabling us to give freely and joyfully, knowing that we are participating in God's work on earth. In conclusion, wisdom is the foundation of lasting wealth and true prosperity. By prioritizing wisdom, we gain the tools to navigate life's challenges, make sound financial decisions, and live in alignment with God's purpose. As we seek wisdom, we not only position ourselves for material blessings, but also experience the deeper riches of spiritual growth, contentment, and fulfillment. Wisdom is the ultimate treasure, and when we embrace it, we unlock the door to a life of abundance, joy, and impact. Diligence is a cornerstone of prosperity. It is the consistent and dedicated effort toward a goal, a quality that the Bible repeatedly praises as essential for a successful and fulfilling life. Proverbs 10:04 tells us, Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. This verse underscores a timeless truth. Prosperity is not merely about talent or opportunity, but about the commitment to hard work and perseverance. Diligence is not about rushing to achieve quick results. It is about the steady and intentional pursuit of excellence in every area of life. One of the most inspiring examples of diligence in the Bible is the story of Joseph. Despite facing betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment, Joseph remained diligent in his work and faithful to God. Whether he was managing Potiphar's household, running the prison, or overseeing the storage of grain in Egypt, Joseph worked with integrity and excellence. His diligence eventually led him to become second in command to Pharaoh, overseeing the prosperity of an entire nation. Joseph's story reminds us that diligence is often tested in difficult circumstances, but it is through these challenges that our character is refined and our potential is revealed. Diligence is not only about working hard, but also about working smart. It requires wisdom and planning to ensure that our efforts are directed toward meaningful and productive goals. Proverbs 21:05 says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." This verse emphasizes the importance of thoughtful preparation and persistence. Diligence involves setting clear goals, breaking them into manageable steps, and consistently taking action. It is not about perfection or having all the answers, but about showing up every day with determination and focus. One of the keys to diligence is understanding that success rarely happens overnight. Prosperity is a result of small, consistent actions compounded over time. Just as a farmer must plant seeds, tend to the soil, and wait patiently for the harvest, so must we approach our endeavors with perseverance. Galatians 6:9 encourages us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." This verse is a powerful reminder that diligence requires patience and faith. Even when progress seems slow or obstacles arise, we must trust that our efforts will bear fruit in due season. Diligence also requires discipline and self-control. It is easy to become distracted or discouraged, especially in a world filled with instant gratification and competing priorities. However, true diligence means staying focused on what matters most and resisting the temptation to give up or take shortcuts. Proverbs 12:24 states, "The diligent hand will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor." This highlights the principle that those who are disciplined and persistent gain greater control over their lives, while those who lack diligence often find themselves struggling to keep up. In addition to personal discipline, diligence is closely tied to the principle of stewardship. Everything we have, our time, talents, resources, and opportunities, comes from God, and we are called to use these gifts wisely. The parable of the talents in Matthew 25 illustrates this beautifully. In the story, a master entrusts his servants with various amounts of money before leaving on a journey. Two of the servants invest their money and double what they were given, while the third buries his talent out of fear. When the master returns, he praises the diligent servants and rewards them with greater responsibilities. This parable teaches us that diligence involves actively using and multiplying what we have been given, rather than letting it go to waste. Diligence is not limited to work or financial pursuits. It applies to every area of life. Whether it is maintaining healthy relationships, cultivating spiritual growth, or pursuing personal development, diligence is the key to thriving. For example, building strong relationships requires consistent effort, communication, and acts of love. Similarly, growing in faith involves regular prayer, studying God's Word, and seeking His guidance. In every aspect of life, diligence is the bridge between intention and fulfillment. Another important aspect of diligence is resilience. Life is full of challenges, setbacks, and uncertainties, but diligence empowers us to keep moving forward despite difficulties. It helps us develop a mindset of perseverance, knowing that obstacles are not the end, but an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser. James 1:12 says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." This verse reminds us that diligence is not just about external success, but about building inner strength and faith. Finally, diligence leads to prosperity because it aligns us with God's principles. When we work diligently, we reflect His nature as a creator and sustainer. Our efforts become an act of worship, demonstrating our gratitude for His blessings and our trust in His provision. Prosperity, then, is not just about material wealth, but about living a life of purpose, integrity, and abundance. In conclusion, diligence is a powerful virtue that paves the way for prosperity. It requires hard work, discipline, patience, and resilience, but the rewards are worth it. Diligence transforms our efforts into achievements and our dreams into reality. As we embrace diligence in all that we do, we position ourselves to experience the fullness of God's blessings and to create a life that honors Him and inspires others. Generosity is a timeless virtue that transcends cultures, religions, and circumstances. It is a profound expression of love, compassion, and selflessness, reminding us of our interconnectedness and the power of giving. The Bible teaches us that generosity is a cornerstone of a fulfilling life, emphasizing that giving is not just about material possessions, but about the state of our hearts. Proverbs 11:25 states, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." This verse encapsulates the essence of generosity. When we give freely and joyfully, we not only bless others, but also enrich our own lives in ways beyond measure. Generosity is not about the size of the gift, but the intention behind it. One of the most moving stories in the Bible is that of the widow's offering in Mark 12:41-44. While wealthy individuals gave large amounts to the temple treasury, a poor widow gave 2 small coins, all she had to live on. Jesus praised her, saying she had given more than anyone else because she gave out of her poverty, not her surplus. This story reminds us that generosity is measured by the heart's willingness to give, not by the monetary value of the gift. It is the act of giving with sincerity, faith, and love that makes generosity truly meaningful. Generosity goes beyond material giving. It extends to our time, energy, and talents. Sometimes the greatest gift we can offer is our presence, a listening ear, or a helping hand. In a world where many feel isolated and overwhelmed, acts of kindness and support can have a profound impact. Whether it is volunteering for a cause, mentoring someone in need, or simply being there for a friend, generosity of spirit fosters connection, healing, and growth. These seemingly small gestures often have a ripple effect, inspiring others to pay it forward and create a culture of giving. One of the most beautiful aspects of generosity is its transformative power. Giving has the ability to shift our focus from ourselves to others, fostering gratitude and contentment. It helps us break free from the grip of materialism and self-centeredness, aligning us with a higher purpose. Generosity also reminds us of the abundance in our lives, encouraging us to see beyond what we lack and celebrate what we have. As we give, we cultivate a mindset of gratitude, which in turn attracts more blessings and opportunities into our lives. Generosity is also a reflection of trust in God's provision. When we give, we acknowledge that everything we have ultimately comes from Him and that He will continue to meet our needs. In 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 7, Paul writes, "Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver." This passage highlights the importance of giving with a willing and joyful heart, trusting that God's provision is abundant and unfailing. It is through this trust that we can give freely, knowing that our generosity will never leave us empty. Practicing generosity also helps us build stronger communities. When we share our resources, time, and talents, we contribute to the well-being of others and create a sense of unity and support. Generosity fosters a spirit of collaboration and mutual care, reminding us that we are all part of something greater than ourselves. Whether it is helping a neighbor in need, supporting a local charity, or contributing to a cause close to our hearts, our acts of generosity strengthen the bonds that hold us together and create a more compassionate and just world. Moreover, generosity has a profound impact on our emotional and spiritual well-being. Studies have shown that acts of giving release endorphins, boosting happiness and reducing stress. This phenomenon, often referred to as the helper's high, illustrates how generosity benefits not only the recipient, but also the giver. Spiritually, generosity deepens our connection to God and others, aligning us with His purpose and reflecting His love. It is through giving that we experience the joy of being His hands and feet in the world, spreading light and hope wherever we go. At its core, generosity is an act of faith and love. It challenges us to look beyond ourselves, to see the needs of others, and to respond with kindness and compassion. It teaches us that life is not about accumulation, but about contribution, not about taking, but about giving. Generosity reminds us that we are stewards of the blessings we have received, called to use them to make a positive difference in the world. In conclusion, practicing generosity is a powerful way to live a meaningful and abundant life. It enriches our hearts, strengthens our communities, and aligns us with God's purpose. Whether through our time, resources, or talents, every act of giving has the potential to transform lives, including our own. As we embrace the spirit of generosity, we open ourselves to a deeper sense of fulfillment, joy, and connection, living out the truth that it is indeed more blessed to give than to receive. Faith and fear are two powerful forces that often compete for control over our minds and hearts. While fear seeks to paralyze and limit us, faith empowers, uplifts, and opens the door to endless possibilities. Choosing faith over fear is an intentional act of trust. Trust in God's plan, His timing, and His unwavering love. It is a choice to see life through the lens of hope rather than despair. And it is a decision that can transform the way we live, think, and respond to challenges. Fear is a natural emotion, but when left unchecked, it can dominate our lives. It whispers lies about our worth, capabilities, and future. It keeps us stuck in a cycle of worry and doubt, convincing us that the worst-case scenario is inevitable. Fear thrives in uncertainty, magnifying the unknown and making it seem insurmountable. Yet the Bible repeatedly encourages us not to fear. In Isaiah 41:10, God says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." This powerful promise reminds us that we are never alone, even in our darkest moments. God's presence is a source of strength and reassurance, allowing us to replace fear with faith. Faith in its essence is trust in the unseen. It is the belief that God is working all things together for our good, even when we cannot perceive the outcome. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 defines faith as confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Faith invites us to surrender our need for control and to rest in the knowledge that God's ways are higher than our own. It shifts our focus from our limitations to His infinite power, enabling us to face life's uncertainties with courage. Choosing faith over fear begins with recognizing that fear is not from God. 2 Timothy 1:7 tells us, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." This verse reveals that fear is not part of God's design for us. Instead, He equips us with strength, love, and clarity of thought. When fear creeps in, we can combat it by anchoring ourselves in His promises. By meditating on Scripture, praying for guidance, and declaring His truth over our lives, we can silence fear's voice and amplify the voice of faith. Faith does not mean the absence of fear, but the courage to move forward despite it. Fear often surfaces when we step outside our comfort zones or face situations beyond our control. However, these moments are opportunities to grow in faith. They remind us of our dependence on God and call us to trust Him more deeply. Psalm 56:3 says, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." This verse acknowledges that fear may arise, but it also provides the solution: to turn to God as our refuge and strength. Faith is not about pretending that challenges don't exist. It's about trusting that God is bigger than any obstacle we face. One of the most profound ways to embrace faith over fear is by focusing on gratitude. Fear often stems from a mindset of scarcity or lack, while faith is rooted in abundance and trust. When we take time to reflect on God's blessings and faithfulness, our perspective shifts. Gratitude reminds us of all the ways God has provided for us in the past, strengthening our confidence in His ability to do so again. It is a powerful antidote to fear as it redirects our attention from what we lack to what we already have and what is possible through Him. Faith also requires action. It is not a passive state, but an active choice to trust and obey God, even when the path ahead is unclear. In the story of Peter walking on water, Matthew 14:22 through 33, we see both the power of faith and the consequences of fear. When Peter focused on Jesus, he was able to do the impossible. But the moment he shifted his attention to the wind and waves, fear took over and he began to sink. This story illustrates the importance of keeping our eyes on God, especially when circumstances feel overwhelming. Faith calls us to step out in trust, knowing that God will sustain us. Fear often tempts us to retreat, but faith invites us to move forward. It challenges us to believe in God's promises even when we cannot see how they will unfold. It reminds us that our strength comes not from our own abilities, but from His. When we embrace faith over fear, we unlock the courage to pursue our dreams, overcome obstacles, and live with a sense of purpose and hope. We begin to see setbacks as setups for greater blessings and difficulties as opportunities for growth. Ultimately, embracing faith over fear is a journey of surrender. It is about releasing our worries and placing them in God's capable hands. It is trusting that His plans for us are good and that His love for us is unchanging. As we choose faith daily, We experience a deep sense of peace and freedom, knowing that we are held by the one who created us. Fear may knock on the door of our hearts, but faith gives us the strength to stand firm, open the door, and let God's light shine through. Trusting in God's timing is one of the greatest acts of faith and surrender we can practice in our spiritual journey. Life is full of waiting periods, moments where our prayers seem unanswered, our dreams feel delayed, and our paths seem unclear. In these moments, it's easy to become anxious or impatient, questioning whether things will ever fall into place. Yet the Bible consistently teaches us to trust that God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own. Ecclesiastes 3:01 reminds us, "There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens." This timeless wisdom calls us to let go of our need for immediate answers and place our trust in the divine timing of a loving Creator. Trusting in God's timing begins with understanding that He sees the bigger picture. As humans, our perspective is often limited to the here and now. We may feel pressure to accomplish our goals within a certain time frame or compare our progress to others, leading to frustration when life doesn't unfold as we expect. However, Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God's timing operates on a higher plane, intricately weaving together events, people, and circumstances to fulfill His perfect plan. What may seem like a delay to us is often God preparing us, protecting us, or aligning everything for our ultimate good. One of the greatest challenges in trusting God's timing is navigating seasons of waiting. Waiting can feel uncomfortable and unproductive, especially in a world that values instant results. Yet, the Bible is filled with stories of individuals who experienced significant waiting periods before receiving their blessings. Abraham waited decades for the birth of his promised son, Isaac. Joseph endured years of slavery and imprisonment before becoming a leader in Egypt. David was anointed king as a young shepherd, but waited many years before ascending to the throne. In each of these stories, the waiting was not wasted. It was a time of growth, refinement, and preparation. Similarly, our waiting seasons are opportunities for God to work within us, building our character, strengthening our faith, and equipping us for what lies ahead. Trusting in God's timing also requires us to release our desire for control. As humans, we often want to plan every detail of our lives and ensure everything happens according to our timeline. However, Proverbs 16:9 tells us, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." While it's natural to make plans, we must hold them loosely, allowing God to guide and redirect us as He sees fit. Trusting in His timing means surrendering our agendas and believing that His plans are far better than anything we could imagine. One of the most comforting aspects of trusting God's timing is knowing that He cares deeply for us and desires the best for our lives. Jeremiah 29:11 declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This promise reminds us that God's delays are never denials. He is not withholding blessings from us out of neglect or indifference. Rather, He is orchestrating events in ways that will bring about the greatest good. Sometimes what we perceive as a delay is God protecting us from something that isn't meant for us, or isn't ready for us yet. Another key to trusting God's timing is cultivating patience and faith in the process. Patience is a fruit of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22 through 23, and it grows as we lean on God and trust His timing. Faith, too, is essential as it allows us to believe in God's promises even when we cannot see them being fulfilled. Hebrews 11:01 defines faith as confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. When we choose to trust God's timing, we demonstrate our faith in His ability to bring His promises to fruition in His perfect way. During seasons of waiting, gratitude and prayer are powerful tools to keep our hearts aligned with God. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already have, reminding us of God's faithfulness in the past. As we reflect on the ways He has provided, guided, and blessed us, we can find reassurance that He will continue to do so in the future. Prayer, on the other hand, allows us to pour out our hearts to God, seek His wisdom, and find peace in His presence. Philippians 4:6 encourages us, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts in your minds in Christ Jesus." In conclusion, trusting in God's timing is an act of faith that requires surrender, patience, and a deep belief in His goodness. While waiting can be challenging, it is also a time of growth, preparation, and alignment with His divine plan. By releasing our need for control, focusing on gratitude, and staying rooted in prayer, we can find peace in knowing that God's timing is perfect. He is never early, never late, but always right on time. As we trust in Him, we can rest assured that He is working all things together for our good and His glory.